Hey everyone, welcome to our workshop about running for regional office. We have with us today a few special guests, Tala Alahmar and Lavada Burse, who will be here to talk about running for IO. And then we have with us the regional officers for the Texas region to discuss running for RO. I'm Anacita, the Texas regional president representing Alpha Mu Tau, and we'll just go around with each of the different districts. Caleb, you want to start it off with D1?
Sure. I'm the D1 Vice President. I represent West Texas, Alpha Beta Phi, and yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Tiffany Milkowski. I represent the Rokai chapter at Tarrant County College South Campus for District 2 Vice President.
And Cade Bennett couldn't be with us today because he's taking a final right now, but he represents District 3 for Alpha Mu Chi.
Ashley Winslow, and I'm the District 4 Vice President, and I represent the Alpha Gamma Zeta chapter.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandy, your D5 VP. I represent Alpha Gamma Pi at Austin Community College.
So to get us started off the bat, there are 6 different regional office positions, and this is a chapter held position. So you have one for each of the different districts, districts 1 through 5, and then you have the Texas regional president, which represents the entire region. Now for your chapter to run, you have to complete the entire campaign application by February 15th of this next year. All of it has to be submitted. And there are 2 forms that go along with that, the commitment to run form and the honor code. Both have to be signed by the college president, so you'll want to make sure that you have enough time to get that done. And the commitment to run form also has to be signed by a chapter advisor, and the honor code has to be signed by a chapter member. In addition to both of those forms, at least one chapter advisor and at least one chapter member have to attend a rules meeting. Now there are 4 rules meetings and they're all virtual, so I promise you, you can make one. There's this January 26th at 3 p.m., January 28th at 11 a.m., January 31st at 4 p.m., and February 3rd at 6 p.m. And like I said, they're all virtual. All of those Zoom links will be on our Facebook page. Ashley, you want to tell us about campaigning?
Yes, so one of the most exciting parts about regional office is campaigning. Actually, I ran for regional office just for the experience of campaigning alone. Our chapter was like, even if we don't get the role, campaigning is a great experience for you and the members on your team. So, but there are 3 parts to campaigning. We have a campaign booth. This will be done during the Texas Regional Conference live, and there will be a virtual component for those who cannot attend the conference in person. And this is just an opportunity for your chapter to answer questions and get to know Texas region members on a more personal level. This is also another opportunity to reinforce your campaign message and your chapter's reason for running. So then we will also have a skit. This will be an opportunity for your chapter to really use their creative skills and leave a lasting impression on the Texas region. This will also be done during the Texas Regional Conference. All 3 of these parts actually of your campaign will be done, but obviously you will want to have them prepared before you attend the conference. So the 3rd part of campaigning will be a recap speech. It will be a 1-minute speech, just reminding everybody the reasons your chapter is qualified for the positions and why you guys are running for regional office. So with running for this position, of course, you are going to have some expectations. And with that as well, regional office is a chapter held role, but you will pick one student from your chapter to hold this role. Chapters have different ways of picking that student representative. Some will vote for the member they want to represent their chapter. Others will have members volunteer. The way to select a student representative for your chapter is completely at the discretion of the chapter running for the position, but you will have one person to represent the chapter, just as you see here today, our different regional VPs. So the different expectations of that student representative and the chapter as a whole will be to remain an active member. Representatives have to stay active in your chapter. You're going to need the support of your chapter and the insight to successfully fulfill your position. You will also need to maintain your membership to Phi Theta Kappa, which includes maintaining your GPA and completing at least 6 credit hours in the fall and spring semesters. You also will have to uphold the standards of Phi Theta Kappa, of course, supporting the principles, ideas, hallmarks, and programs of the society and region if you will be running for this position. And yeah, once again, it is a chapter held role. So all of these expectations will be applied to your chapter as well, but you will have that one student representative to be kind of the face of your chapter.
So some of the fun parts, representatives will actually attend PTK Catalyst International. And this is where officers you'll give your introductory speeches, and it's really your first introduction into the society. Very jaja, very fun. So they'll also attend the International Honors Institute. This is over the summer. It's another awesome opportunity for you to meet chapter members from all over the US and internationally. Everyone will travel together. They will congregate, you will learn from each other, you will make connections. It's a lot of fun while learning all things HIA, of course. Then you will apply all of those things when you have a chance to see and learn on your very own Texas Regional Institute. This is super cool because this is your time to shine. Your planning, your themes, all of the chance to host all of these amazing events. You'll have great speakers, programming, super fun fellowship events. And the best part, you get to be involved. So definitely something to look forward to. A pro tip is the chapter holding office will be responsible for your Catalyst registration, your airfare, your room, your meals, and for the representatives. However, the Texas region will handle all of those travel expenses for the other 2 conferences. So win-win. A couple of the expectations that do go with that. So every year, the Texas region hosts 2 major conferences and the regional convention. So the first one we kind of talked about, you are expected to attend all of the plannings for those. So kind of think of it as a weekend getaway with a little bit of planning, a dash of presenting, and tons of fun. Whether you're getting pushed into the pool or, doing the pushing, there's tons of fun ideas coming up. So planning meetings, they are held before each conference. They do include the Texas Region leadership team. So you will have a chance to learn and to know them as well as your districts on a much more personal level. The conferences and conventions that are held are Texas Honors Institute, which is held in July, Texas Leadership Conference, which is held in October, and the Texas Regional Convention in March.
So just to give you a general idea of what it looks like for the year as a regional officer, everyone's already kind of giving you a heads up on things that we do, like the planning and also the actual conferences and convention that we are a part of. Along with that comes a little bit of fun. You get to go to inductions for different chapters in your district, and you may be requested to speak at some of these inductions. And I think that was one of my favorite parts this term of being a regional officer, is just kind of getting to know the chapters in your district and hearing their speeches. I mean, it's so motivational to see what great leadership you have in your district. And so inductions is one of the fun things. And those generally tend for the spring semester to be between the March and May area. And that falls right along with Catalyst as well as THI planning. So as you can see, you're going to be multitasking some things, but you have your chapter to rely on, you have your regional officer team to rely on, as well as all of your coordinators. So you have a lot of support in this role. Moving on forward till June and July, we're looking at, of course, the Honors Institute, as well as our Texas Honors Institute, which are both tons of fun, get a lot of good information about HIA in those. It's just, a lot of hard work, but it pays off in the end to see your program come full circle and to see everyone enjoying themselves and having a great time. August to October, we're looking at TLC planning as well as TLC. So that one goes kind of quickly together there. And I'm sure you all had fun at the last TLC that we did. I hope you had fun. The planning, like they mentioned earlier, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. There's lots of TikToking going on. There's lots of pictures, just lots of shenanigans all around. But we get a lot of work done. We work hard, so we play hard. November to December, we're looking at the Regional Institute inductions again, because of course chapters, excuse me, some of the chapters do spring and fall inductions. And so same thing there, you may be asked to speak, you may be asked to attend, whatever it is that you're needed for, just make sure that you're making yourself available. And if you're in a chapter at all, Hallmark writing should not be foreign to you. So Hallmark writing for the regional level is basically, kind of the same as the chapter, except for, it's obviously on a regional level. So Hallmark writing, then we move into the January, March area where it's kind of coming near the end of the term, where we're going to do a little bit more Hallmark editing. There is the Tccta Convention, which is the Texas Community College Teachers Association. So if you have the privilege of representing your chapter as the president, you'll actually give a speech at that convention. Then we have TRC planning and TRC, which is like the end of everything, your farewell, your goodbye, everyone sheds some tears, and then it's on to the next team.
So PTK, being a regional officer has given me several personal benefits in general. Before this, I really couldn't speak very well at all in front of crowds. I had real bad speech anxiety. It still shows sometimes, but PTK really gave me the ability, or being a regional officer really gave me the ability to get past that and give speech to some crowds and just get past my, what's the word I'm looking for? Develop my leadership more fully, because this is the best opportunity I've ever had to really be a leader, especially in such a big role. So I definitely would say that the benefits here are absolutely amazing, and I would highly recommend it. For your chapter will be put on the map. They'll be put on, they'll be in the know. They'll have someone representing, representing Texas at the regional level. And at the end of the term, you'll get a $1,000 scholarship.
So that's just a quick overview of running for RO, and just a few things we wanted to clarify just as going through the PowerPoint brought to attention. The region will only cover the registration for Honors Institute, which when we were putting together the PowerPoint, was something we just got missed. But the region will cover the registration for Honors Institute. Your chapter will have to cover travel for it. Additionally, Professor Linder, there was one other thing, and I'm failing to remember what it was.
On the rules meetings, I don't post the Zoom links on social media because you have to register for the running for regional office rules meetings. And so the links will only go to those who've registered for specific meetings. And there's also not a virtual component to TRC or any RO campaigning. Everything is in person at TRC.
Awesome. Thank you. And additionally, everything is listed on the Texas Region website now. So if you'll go onto the Texas Region website and you go under leadership and then to running for regional office, all of the forms will be listed there, and that's where you can sign up for the rules meeting. And we'll cover questions about running for regional office at the end. Now, Lavada and Tala are going to take it away and tell us about running for IO.
Oh no, I started from the very end.
So everybody got everything right. You know how to run for IO now.
Please consider it if you have any questions. Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Tala, and I'm so happy to serve this year as the international president. I want to give you an overview of what running for international office looks like. There has definitely been some changes over the past couple of years, but this is what you can expect for this upcoming year. When you decide to run, there are 5 different positions. You can run to represent your division, which I will be showing you a map of in just a little bit. But you can run for your division vice president, and to represent your particular division, or you can run for international president. And in this matter, it doesn't matter what division you're from. So as you can see here, Texas is in Division 2. So if you're from Texas, you will be running, you can either run for a Texas Division 2 vice president or for international president. I'm personally from Division 3 in Michigan. So in order to be eligible for international office, you need to be a member in good standing. That means that you need to maintain your GPA and to be enrolled in community college, where you're also recognized as a PTK member. And I think the most important qualification is really being someone who's passionate about PTK and its programming. And you also need approval from your college president and your chapter advisor. Some of the benefits of serving as an international officer, you get personal and professional skills development, whether that's coaching or public speaking workshops, or even help with your resume, applying for colleges, or anything that you might need in your professional or personal lives. You will get training on that. You will also get individual coaching. When my team and I first got elected, we did attend an orientation at headquarters, and we got training on public speaking, on team building. We also got a whole workshop on building our resumes and how to present it. You also get to travel. It definitely depends on the year. As you know, like with COVID and all the restrictions, some travel opportunities might differ year to year. But in general, you might expect to travel to some regional conferences and attend those in person, go to Catalyst and any other conferences that are happening. Upon completion of your term, you will receive a $2,000 scholarship, and you will also get a unique international officer pin. Your responsibilities as an international officer are to participate in the orientations and meetings that are held by headquarters for international officers. You're going to be serving as an ambassador of Phi Theta Kappa. You will definitely be promoting the any membership programming, or you want to promote engagement as well, whether that's on social media, emails, or any other form. You will set goals based on the PTK strategic plan. One cool thing that my team and I are getting to do this year is actually help with the current strategic plan, because it's come to the end of its 5-year period, and we're working on the new one with Dr. Lin. You'll also preside at PTK's international conferences. Those include Honors Institute, Catalyst, as well as Regional Officer Institute, which is a new conference that happened for the first time this year. You will get to speak at chapter and regional events. I know that the ROT mentioned, for example, speaking at induction ceremonies. We've definitely done some of that. We present at regional conferences about, giving an update of what's been going on at headquarters, or anything about running for running for international office, or anything that the chapter or region might ask of us to do. And you also are expected to remain active in your local chapter. It is discouraged to hold a chapter officer position, because we don't want that to take too much out of your time, and you wouldn't be able to fulfill your duties as international officer, but you are definitely encouraged to remain active. Some of the things that we don't do as international officers is that we don't pay for any official travel. So whether you're going to attend an international conference or visiting a region, you will not be paying for anything related to your travel, your meals, your airfare, or anything. You don't serve more than one term. You don't create any new society programs or set new policies, procedures, or guidelines. You're mainly acting as an ambassador. If you have an idea and you'd like to work on it, you're definitely more than welcome to bring it back to headquarters and try to work with the staff in order to make it happen, but it's not something guaranteed. And we discourage members to actually give any promises while you're campaigning, so don't say that there's something that you want to implement. And then the components for your application, you will need a signature from your college president and your chapter advisor, as you'll be representing your chapter internationally. You will need a letter of recommendation too, one from a chapter member. That could be an advisor, your chapter officer, and then you need one from a community member, someone who knows you on a personal level outside of PTK and can speak about your abilities. That could be a professor, for example. You will also prepare an honors study topic speech, which I will be talking about in a little bit. You will need an unofficial copy of your transcript to show your GPA. And then you'll also need an online candidate information piece, which I will also show you a couple examples about that. You would need to submit a professional headshot as well as some candidate photos to go with your application materials. And then you'll also work on an introductory questionnaire, which is like a question and answer that will go up on the website once the candidates are announced, and it will help members get to know you better. So here are a couple of examples for your information pieces. This is mine. You're really encouraged to showcase part of your personality through your information piece, no matter how that could, roll out. But for me, I personally really like crocheting and knitting, and I decided to incorporate that into my information piece and into my campaign theme. So I had a heart of yarn with the knitting needles sticking out of it. I also, for example, one of my goals is to work for the United Nations, and I had the United Nations logo on my information piece to show that. And you'll see that pictures might be a common theme for information pieces because they grab the attention of your audience and of the members, and they add a little touch. And then you can get as creative as you want, in however way you want to present your information piece. The next one is actually of Lavada's. Lavada, I'm not sure if you'd want to talk about your information piece.
Yes, I sure will. My information piece came from my chapter. My chapter, from the moment I became a member, we have always wanted to leave a legacy for the next group that's coming. And so that was kind of my theme, leaving a legacy for the next group of chapter officers. And then I also wanted to kind of share my story and tell you exactly how I did. So you can see the create your power, change your story, and then craft your legacy. Those were the steps that I used in order to change the things that I was going through as far as mental health and anxiety, different things like that were going on in my life, in order to change that legacy. And then, so I have a few pictures of a district meeting, pictures of me and my boys, and then one of a regional event. And so I kept the pictures light. That is a good idea to keep it light because you want to grab their attention, but you also don't want to take away from your piece. You really want them to actually get to know who you are as a person.
Thank you, Lavada. The next big thing, and I think for me it was the most intimidating, is the honors study topic speech. It's going to be a 90-second speech on a prompt that's going to be assigned by headquarters. And the application is actually open, so you can go ahead and take a look at the prompt. Usually it is on the honors study topic, on the honors study topic guide, which, as you might know, that next year it's going to be a new guide. So that will be a new set of themes that we get to choose from and assign a specific prompt to talk about a specific theme. This is not a campaign speech. You will not be talking about what Phi Theta Kappa means to you or why you're running for this position. It is simply going to be an academic-based speech, and it's going to be recorded live via Zoom in mid-February. I will say, though, that you will receive tremendous help and support on your speech. At any point, you won't be alone. You will be able to submit a draft that's going to be reviewed by the amazing Susan Edwards. She will give you, extensive feedback on that. You will get to work on it again and make sure that you have a perfect draft by the time that you're ready to record your speech. Next is you're going to have your candidate caucus, which is going to be with one of the international officers, and it's going to be a question and answer. You will record your speech, and then right after that, we'll start asking you some questions. Usually it's between 3 to 5 questions, depending on the time. But some of the questions are more lighthearted, like I remember one of the questions that I got, what did you want to be when you grew up? But some of the questions are more serious. They address things about Phi Theta Kappa's programming, or anything that, you know, is really related to PTK. But the main purpose of this is to help people get to know you better and see how you would respond in such a format. The campaign also extends throughout before Catalyst, but there's also a big component of the campaign at Catalyst. You will be able to set up a campaign booth during Marketplace. You will have, depending on the participation, we're planning on having a hybrid format. So you're more than likely are going to have a booth at the Marketplace, but you're also going to have a Zoom room. So you'll be able to have a virtual booth for people calling in virtually. You will give then your second honors study topic speech, which is also a prompt assigned by headquarters. You will also have access to that ahead of time, and you'll be able to prepare. You will receive the same feedback, and you will have the same resources and support that you need. And then the semifinalist selection will take place. That will determine the 4 semifinalists from each position. And it will bring down the total of the candidates running to 20. Next, we will have the candidate finalist caucus, which is going to take place during Catalyst, and it will narrow down the race to 2 finalists from each position. So 10 candidates in total. Next, there's going to be some conversations. You're still going to be able to talk again with the constituents and voting delegates, answer any questions. You'll have another chance to connect with them via a booth. And then the final election will take place. And then before that, you will have an interview with Dr. Lin, which is very similar to the caucus that you have with the international officers. And then the final elections will take place, and the international officers for the next year will be announced. So just an overview of how the election is going to work. The preliminary election is going to take place in March, and all chapters, whether or not they're registered to attend Catalyst, will get a vote. And then every chapter will pick 1 voting delegate. That voting delegate will be responsible of watching the speeches, the candidate caucus, running through all the materials that the candidate has provided, and voting based off of that. Next, the second election will take place during Catalyst, and it will narrow down the candidates to the top 10 finalists. And then the final round of voting will take place also at Catalyst, and it will determine the 5 international officers. The second 2 phases of the election are only available for chapters that are registered to attend Catalyst. And if you have any questions, I would highly recommend that you reach out to Jennifer Stanford. She is amazing. She will be overseeing the candidates throughout the campaigning process. She will hold regular meetings with the team and make sure that everyone has all their questions answered. You will also get to meet with Susan Edwards and talk more about the honors study topic and the speech that you need to give. But I would highly recommend that you take a screenshot of this. Definitely reach out with any questions. And if you want the application, I would definitely recommend starting early. It is now open. So you can go to this link, or you can email Jennifer and she'd be able to send you the application as well. Start early. It's not due until February 4th, but there are a lot of components and you want to make sure that you have everything in. And if you have any questions about that, then definitely feel free to reach out to me or any of the international officers or previous international officers, and everyone would be more than happy to help you answer any questions that you have.
So for those of y'all who are here live, what questions do you have for running for office, whether it's regional office or international office?
And
Dr.
while you're
Harkness.
thinking of those, I'm going to say, hang on, I want to point out that don't forget that Lavada has served as both. She's completed a term as Texas regional president and she completed a term as international president. And so she can certainly speak to both of those positions as well. So keep that in mind as you're asking RO questions, IO questions, just FYI.
And additionally, Tala as well, right? Served as the Michigan president.
Right. She can speak regional officer in general, not specific to
Right.
Texas, but yeah.
Right. Dr. Hargis?
So mine's more of a comment just because I don't recall you saying that, but since an advisor and a member of the chapter have to attend the rules meeting, just want to point out we don't have to attend the same one, right?
Correct. They can be separate meetings.
Okay. And the other thing I just want to point out for advisors who are worried about their chapter holding the position, that I will tell you that it's not extra work on chapter advisors, and that I highly encourage even the running for office, because I saw a big change in my officers enjoying their time at TRC before we ran, and then after. It's just a different level of engagement and teamwork. That was something else I saw that the team was able to really pull together and just got really close just creating the campaign. So I know that some advisors may be like worried about doing that, but I highly encourage it. And then I've had both regional officers and international officers, not Mary, Linda's not the only one. And there are big differences. So I will tell you that at my chapter, we had a lot of issues with travel. So like Tala was saying that some people might be traveling a lot with IO, but I was able to get special permission so that I wouldn't have to have an additional burden for my IO person to travel. So there are lots of ways to get around some of these problems that I, for one, didn't want to handle. So for a long time, I wouldn't let somebody run, but once you get into it, you can find different ways to get around some of the burdens. So for advisors out there who are worried and don't want to do it, I highly encourage it. So.
Whether running for RO as a chapter or IO, what kind of things go on during a campaign? I mean, besides social media, what other things do you do to campaign?
Can you elaborate on the question?
Well, I mean, I know we have the social media component that's very, very prevalent, but I didn't know if there were other events you go to, or are there other things that you do during the campaigns to help introduce yourself to the other chapters and things like that?
So you're asking specific to RO?
Either one, RO
Okay.
or IO.
I was gonna say, because RO, there's not a social media component. All of the campaigning takes place at TRC itself.
Okay. And then what about IO?
I would say that for IO, social media is definitely not mandatory, and I would discourage you from spending all your time and energy on it. It will get to a point, even especially closer to Catalyst, when people are so overwhelmed with all the posts that they will skip through them. So I would say that if you decide on choosing social media, or, a lot of people choose Facebook because there is a big Phi Theta Kappa audience there. I would say be very mindful of how much information you're putting out there. Make it interactive. Don't overwhelm people. You want to keep in consideration that there are going to be at least like 20 other people running alongside you, and it's going to be really overwhelming for people.
So just to piggyback off of that, you want to focus mainly on your informational piece. You want to really focus on your speech. You want to focus on the caucus. Those are going to be the things that is going to make the difference for you. Social media is just to get your name out there so people know who you are. But as Tala said, don't focus a lot on social media, because they're going to get sick and tired, and they're going to start blocking and deleting posts. And they're going to go just to the website just to see that other information.
Yeah, and on the regional side, the most important piece, really, the most important elements are going to be that skit and that 1 minute recap speech. Like, those are the things where decisions are really made. People, during the campaign time, they go to the booths, they ask questions, certainly. But in my experience as an advisor and watching and listening to my chapter, it's the skit and the speech that really solidifies the decision making. And so those are going to be the most important elements for the RO campaign.
I see your hand raised, Dr. Hargis. There's a question in the chat first, and I'm going to hop to. Since we are transitioning.
Yeah, but mine goes directly to what she said. Just real quick, I'm sorry. We totally bombed really, really bad when we didn't have a cohesive message between the speech and the skit. So I tell people all the time, like, it's great to have a skit that's great, and it's great to have a speech that's great, but if they're not cohesive, we have felt that. It was not cohesive and we lost badly. And then we got really great advice from a sister chapter. Thank you, Leonard. And the next year we were cohesive and it worked out way better. So just for those out there who've never run before, we did that with absolutely no help, but we're here to help. And I never thought to reach out and ask anybody, and we looked bad, but you know, we had fun. So sorry, it had directly to do with that. I'm sorry.
Ashley, what you got?
Yeah, so just regarding the skit, also for chapters who've never ran before, I know for our chapter last year, we had the cohesive message, which was good, but what we didn't realize about the skit and something kind of unique about the Texas region is most of the skits kind of have a little bit of a comedy or like a fun element to it. That's why we say use your creative skills. People have parodied many songs before, or maybe a TV show or a movie. This is just a way to kind of, give chapters a fun thing to kind of associate your chapter with while still having that cohesive message. And then the 1 minute recap speech will more be your formal recap of your message. So just want to throw that out there because I know our skit, it was not really funny, and I was like, dang, we could have done way better.
Yeah, and that's very true that the people will associate your chapter with your skit. And so they may not remember your chapter name, but they'll remember, oh, who did, the one about, the superheroes. Who did that one? I liked that chapter. They were good. Moving on to the question in the chat, since we are transitioning from completely virtual to now a hybrid format, what changes can we see in campaigning? How can candidates best be prepared for campaigning in person? And this is for IO specifically at Marketplace. So I'm going to toss this question off to Tala and Lavada.
Especially for the Marketplace, I would say rely on your campaign team and your campaign manager. And it's something that I didn't really mention in the presentation. You don't have to have a campaign manager, but it is, it's recommended, and it's up to you. The campaign manager should be an active member, could be from your chapter or any other chapter, but that person is the person that's going to be helping you throughout everything. They will be someone who you can rely on. The same thing goes with your campaign team. So I would definitely recommend for the in-person Marketplace. I've never attended an in-person Catalyst, so I can't really speak to that a lot, but I would definitely recommend having a team with you in case you needed to step out of the booth, someone who can speak of you and interact with constituents and voting delegates. Definitely rehearse. The way that I practice for the Marketplace, I reached out to one member from our region, an alumni member. She had a list of over 100 questions that she had compiled from when she ran for international office. And I was able to practice those with my team. So definitely make some questions, have your friends, your chapter officers, your advisors ask you questions and see how you respond to that. And that's the main thing. Just be yourself, be genuine and authentic. You can be as creative as you want with your booth. And I think that goes both for virtual and in person. Last year, I decided to decorate my room. I was in my room in the Marketplace, but I had blue and yellow balloons with PTK letters in the background just to give people a change of scenery. So, you can be as creative as you want with your booth, whether that's virtual or in person. And I think, adding your personal touch will definitely help you stand out.
So I like Tala, I didn't get to do the Marketplace because everything that I did was completely virtual. But I did attend Catalyst before when I had a member of my chapter running. And the best advice I think I can give, I was a new member, but I did notice that they worked as a team. And so when people were talking to the candidate, the campaign manager would make sure other people didn't leave. If they were not listening to the candidate, they would continue to talk to those people until they had their turn. Because if not, they would be standing there and like, oh, well, forget it. I'll just come back and then never come back. So you want to make sure you have some type of plan to keep members at your booth until the candidate can actually speak with them. And then your campaign manager, you really want to have someone who really knows you and who can speak to you, just in case they don't get to speak to that campaign manager. To the candidate. My job, since I was new to the chapter, was to get people over there. And so we had our flyers, we were out there, and if it took me walking them to the booth, that's what I did. But I would talk to them about my chapter, things that I knew and I was comfortable talking about them with, and just bring them to the chapter and then pass them on to the campaign manager or pass them on to the candidate. And so I feel that working together as a team was really beneficial, and it actually worked for them. So.
Absolutely. I'm going to piggyback on that because I've seen many campaigns. I've worked on many campaigns by Theta Kappa and, in the real world. So the teamwork aspect that Lavada was emphasizing is absolutely essential to a candidate doing well and connecting with the most members at the convention. Hands down, absolutely essential. And I will also say this, I have seen people in the past try to just get as many volunteers as they can. That's not going to necessarily help you. The people who are working on a campaign need to be excited to be there for that candidate, because that excitement is going to be contagious. It will spill over, because if you have somebody there who doesn't even know anything about the candidate, that's not going to be very impressive to somebody who is trying to make a decision on voting. They want to know that you're there because you support that person. You think that they're a good person to run for that position. So as you're building a campaign team, don't just seek numbers, seek people who want to be there to support you. That is really critical. And even, again, as Lavada was a new member when she worked on that campaign, but she was still excited to be there and support that person. She didn't know as much. We did a lot of coaching to give some basic information that she could speak about to people. And then she would walk them to the booth so that she would be in contact, or those individuals would be in contact with people who knew more and could speak more, and of course the candidate themselves. So really make sure that you have people who are excited to be there for you if you're the one running, because just numbers, that's not going to help you. People see through that very, very quickly.
Can I answer Stephen's question? I feel attacked, Stephen. So just as a reminder, when you're running for RO, it's your entire chapter running. This is where we made a mistake running our first time. We had a person who wanted to run. They knew the whole campaign. They planned the whole thing. We asked if they needed help. They were good. And then they got kidney stones 2 days before TRC. So the whole chapter was just excited to support this person because we all loved him. We didn't know anything. And so he swore he would be fine. And he went to TRC with kidney stones. So I spent a lot of time in the ER because obviously that's not a good thing to do. And then our chapter tried desperately to survive. We did not. It was terrible. So one thing that we learned is obviously you're not running a person for RO. It is a chapter and your whole chapter works on it. And there's a whole chapter campaign team that works on it. So there's not one person who's in charge. We've also had people who were not ever interested in seeking the position, but they were just fabulous speakers, do the speeches or run the skit and whatnot, because they were just comfortable actors and leaders, but they never were seeking the position. So that's something to remember. It's totally different than IO, that when you are the person, right? And that's it. I don't know what I would have done if he was running for IO and he got kidney stones, because we can't stand in this place and talk about him. I mean, we can hold like a big up face of Fadi, because we've done that before, like with these poster boards of Fadi's face. But you need to make sure that your team knows what's going on, that it's a cohesive understanding of the entire team. And even for IO, I don't know how Linda would approach this, but like they get sick, you're up there. If you're winning, you're talking a lot. Your voice goes out. Like I remember one of our guys, like voices go out, you're exhausted, you're tired. It's hours standing on your feet and whatnot. That's where the team again plays a big part. Everything, we met for weeks before Catalyst, so that everybody who was going to Catalyst knew something about the person that was running and that was able to communicate something. And then we had different teams, like chapter, really individualistic, best friends. And that's how we worked it, like just letting you know a little bit, and people kept walking by, we're interested, we move on to the next group and the next group, so that Fadi's voice wouldn't run out like our last one did. So you have to make sure that it's a team effort. If you're not a team player, it's not for you.
Would Lavada or Tala like to talk about what might happen if someone running for IO gets sick?
I'm honestly not sure. I haven't witnessed that happen yet. But what I would say is that even if you don't get sick, but there's definitely a mental component to it, and it's going to be a very mentally and emotionally draining process. You will be campaigning before Catalyst and then during Catalyst, and at Catalyst, you'll be talking to a lot of people nonstop. So it's really important, again, to rely back on your team and make sure that everyone is ready in case anything happens, that they can be there to support you, help you through it, and make sure that you're eating and drinking and taking care of yourself in the first place.
Yeah, I believe that will be something that Jennifer Stanford could answer better, because I believe it's so many different components to it. Depends on what part of the process when they're sick. How sick? Is it something where they're going to have to drop out? Is it something where they just can't arrive to Catalyst on time? They'll be there the next day. Is it some way that they can set up a virtual component until they can get there? It's so many different variables with being sick as an IO candidate. So it will be something definitely to reach out to Ms. Jennifer Stanford about.
Can I build on something that Tala mentioned about the kind of physical and mental health as well of the candidate? And this is going to be true, certainly more so for IO, but I think it's important to remember for RO as well. So I have always recommended that you pick somebody, if you're talking an IO, pick somebody for campaign manager who you can really trust. And then when you pick that person, then you just kind of have to put all of your trust in that person. And that person also has to accept the responsibility of, they're going to, like we always tell our candidate, I don't want you looking at the schedule. I don't want you to worry about what time it is. Nothing like that. Your team, and particularly your campaign manager, is going to take care of you. If they say now is the time to go to this place, you just don't even question it. You go to that place. If they say now I want you to go take 15 minutes and go sit over there and I want you to eat something, eat this package of crackers, take, a little mental health break, whatever you need to do, you just go do it. You don't question it. And so that campaign manager in particular is really critical. And so you've got to pick that person you can trust. And then, like I said, it has to be somebody who understands the responsibility and takes on that responsibility, because it is more draining than you may think it will be going into it. You may think, oh, it's only, 2 hours of standing in a booth, but it's 2 hours of straight talking, and standing and talking and standing and talking and smiling and standing and talking and being happy. And it's everything over and over again, as Hargis said in the chat. It is physically and mentally draining. And so you need to have that faith in your team, and certainly your campaign manager, and they need to accept that responsibility to take care of you. And I will say that this has been even more important in our chapter when we've had candidates, because like as regional coordinator, I can't be on a team. I can't be out there on the floor. And so I have to trust, like I'm trying to watch from afar and make sure my people are okay, because I'm kind of a mother hen. But I can't do that. And so that trust has to be there with that person to make sure that you're taking care of one another. It's important. Hargis has words. Are they appropriate words?
Okay, look, I learned so much from failure. I don't know, and I failed a lot over the years, and nothing bad for the chapter. I didn't do my due diligence the first few times, but one thing I do recall is you need to really check the rules. So I see a lot of the same people running for RO that might be on an RO campaign. It might be with somebody who's running for IO. So I'm not saying like, Elise is running the RO campaign and then she's also running for IO, right? I'm saying that Elise is in our chapter and she'll probably be on our campaign. And then if somebody runs for IO, she might be on that campaign too. So just as a sidebar, you should note, if you win RO in Texas has very specific rules about whether or not you can help. And I remember that threw us for a wrench one time, because it was like one person who's instrumental for the IO campaign could no longer do it because they were going to be involved or whatever. So just make sure that you, when you're looking at your teams, that you're not overlapping too much. So something that we've done, because we've had people run at the same time, and I know Linder has at the same time as well. I'm not sure about other chapters, but we have a campaign manager at the RO and we have a campaign manager at the IO, and they're usually working separate with overlapping information, but not all the same. we just have a big team, so we can do that. So just keep in mind that if you win, so like this last year, Anna's on our chapter, and if somebody was running for IO, she couldn't then campaign for them on the floor. So just things just come up that you don't realize. And again, just running is really fun, but when you are actually winning, like freaks you out. So you need to think of that stuff ahead of time. We didn't our first few times, and we're just one of those people running around like, oh my God, we won. We don't know what to do now.
Can I add one thing to that? I would say that it's really easy to break a rule, whether you're running for RO or IO, and it could not be on purpose. So definitely ask questions. I remember like one of the things that I did when I was running, I had a meeting with Collins College, and it was something that I did as a way to get to know people better. I had an Eventbrite. Chapters can sign up to meet with me one-on-one, like, and have like a simulation of the marketplace, just so I can get to know people better and they can get to know me better. And I remember I took a picture during the meeting. I asked everyone, and then I posted it. Dr. Hargis was actually in the picture. Her camera was off, so it was only her name. And I remember posting it to Facebook and tagging her and receiving a text saying, "You're not allowed to do that because I'm an assistant regional coordinator." So I would say be very careful and ask questions whenever you're in doubt. Definitely ask a lot of questions, because you could be breaking a rule without even knowing it.
Yeah, we try to help when we see those things. Be like, take that down.
I probably took off my camera and didn't realize my name was up there. If in doubt, like I can't stress enough, I know they're not saying it enough, but run. It's so fun. And my people who have lost have enjoyed the experience. My people who have won have enjoyed the experience. I can't speak for Anna, but past people, I can totally talk for them because they're not here. And so just running is such an experience. And I tell you, I have so much like pride in anybody who's wanting to put their self out there. I mean, it is stressful, but it's great. You should totally just do it.
What other questions do we have? All right, well, I have a question. Lavada, because you've been both regional officer for the Texas region, which is what we're here representing today, as well as international president. What's your biggest takeaway from being an RO versus being an IO?
Oh, that's a really good question. My takeaway, so first, being an RO was, it was for me, it was the stepping stone to becoming an IO. You don't have to be an RO before you become an IO, but it definitely helped me grow as a person. And so being an RO, the thing that I loved the most was actually being able to plan events for Texas. You plan all 3 regional events, and I mean top to bottom, the speakers, the agenda, what rooms the district meetings are going to be in, what the seminar leaders are going to talk about, like every single detail. And then you get to problem solve through that. You know, you meet with the leadership team and they're like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Is this room big enough? What are you going to do if this happens? And so it teaches you some life lessons that I've been able to take with me, you know, on to the university, working in teams. But that was a big thing that I was able to impact the Texas region, not only with the programming that we were sharing with them, but I actually learned a lot. Like when I became regional president, I knew some of the things, but some things I actually didn't know. And we had the guidance of the leadership team, our coordinators, our district coordinators. We were able to make a difference. So in our goals, we said we wanted to do, you know, more with 5-star chapters. We wanted to do this. So we were able to actually have that planning and see it actually play out. Of course, they're there to actually help you as well. Like this workshop, you will want to do this at THI. And so they were like, well, you probably don't want to do this because we're going to be talking about, you know, more themes and topics of our understudy topic. And so just working through that whole year of event planning As an IO, you don't get to do the event planning. They have an events team who does that for you. So that's what I really loved about being an RO in the Texas region. You make an impact on Texas. You make, I don't want to say make or break, because you're going to make Texas stronger. You're going to make it a better region by bringing in all those programming and making it fun for the members and chapter officers that are attending. Being an IO, I was able to get a lot, because I did mine virtually, so I was able to get a lot of connections all around the country. Having professional and personal development, being able to present to boards with Dr. Lynn, the ACCT and the AACC, being able to present at the innovations conference that they had was really amazing. Like being able to make an impact on an international level, being able to present with Susan Edwards, like that, I never saw that coming. And when she emailed me and asked me to present with her, it was, I want to say like a dream come true, because you're able to be with people from headquarters and make a connection with people from headquarters. You make an impact with, last year, we were able to impact on the activity chapter leaders guide. That was something that we were actually able to help with. When the Healthcare Edge came out, they sent it to us and said, try it out, see what you think, see what you like. You're able to make an impact on an international level before it rolls down to the regional level. But as an RO, you get a better personal connection with your region. And so those are kind of like my big takeaways. I really love that personal connection with Texas. And I also love the personal development, professional development that I was able to receive as an international officer as well. So I can't really tell you which one to do. If you can do both, do both. But I know, community college is a short time for most. Most people don't go to college for 8 years like I did. No, I didn't go for 8 years. But most people, 2 years, 3 years, they're in and out. And so just decide what will be best for you, what you want to make the most impact on.
Go for it, Brandy.
I just wanted to ask to both Tala and Lavada, what would you say is the difference in maybe time commitment? Because I know some people that are regional officers see that, especially in Texas, and I can't speak for anyone else, but it's a huge time commitment. But being a mom, a full-time worker, I go to school part-time, doing all the things that I do, I can still make time. So I know it can be done if you want to do it. It's just the commitment needs to be there. But what would you say is the time commitment difference for someone that's maybe struggling with, I was an RO, it took a lot of time. Is it going to be the same time for IO? I don't know if I can give that much time. I've heard that question a lot, especially when we went to Regional Institute.
So the time commitment for me is going to be different for Tala because I was completely virtual. I spent a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, in virtual events. I did close to 100 virtual events out of the 275 that my team completed for the year. I spent a lot of time on those events, but that was because we were virtual and I was trying to reach as many people possible to share, maybe the headquarters update, or if they wanted to talk about time management, if they wanted to talk about, mental health, whatever they needed to talk about. I wanted to make that time for them. And I did have the time at that point in order to do it. And like I say, mine was virtual, so it's completely different from what the candidates now are going to face. So I will leave that one to Tala to kind of tell, because she's been more in person than virtual.
For me, like comparing RO to IO in the terms of time commitment, I would say that I spent more times a week for RO because we had the areas of excellence that we had to work on around Hallmark season. We were really stressed out with submitting the hallmarks and writings. We also did a lot of the planning for the conferences and events, as opposed to not not taking charge of that when you're an international officer. So my time commitment for IO has really varied week to week. There are times when you know that if, for example, you're traveling, you know that you're dedicating a whole weekend for that. Might take your Friday as well. Really depends on like the region that you're visiting and the time that the conference is taking place. We've also attended some virtual events and induction ceremonies, but they haven't been as much as last year, I think. So it really depends. And I think the one thing that, you know, continues to keep happening no matter what is that you're there to support people. So at any time, if someone reaches out to you, you're going to have to set aside some time and be able to connect with that member, chapter, region, and make sure that you're ready to help them and that you provide them with all the resources. So I would say the only thing that's set in stone is the meetings that we have as an international officer team, which is usually once a week for an hour. It really depends on the schedule. Other than that, the time is flexible and it's around your schedule. You will also, if you're traveling, you will also be able to pick the, you know, the dates that work best for your schedule. And depending on that, you'll be able to go to visit the regions that have, you know, a schedule that works around yours. But I would say that for me, it's not really that big of a time commitment, and it varies depending on the time of year and the conferences that are happening.
So just what I'm hearing from you is that basically RO is a little bit more of a time commitment than IO, just because of all the planning and all of the other things that you kind of have your hand in, whereas with IO, it's kind of done a little bit for you.
In my experience, that's how it's been.
Okay, thanks.
But I would also say that although you're putting aside that time and working on the hallmarks, I think for me, that was the most enjoyable part, because you're actually like getting the work done and you're seeing what happens and you're seeing the impact that your projects are doing. But when you're in like, as opposed to IO, you're still helping, and you're helping someone do that. So in both cases, you're playing a really important role, but it's like whether you're doing the project or you're supporting someone to make sure that they have a good project.
We have any more questions?
What would you say is the best way to prepare for a caucus? I haven't really been too well versed in a lot of like the campaigning stuff. And so I'm just not very sure what all that would entail. Like how would you recommend the best way to get ready for that would be?
Definitely have your friends and your team ask you questions over and over again. Practice it. You're going to practice the questions a lot. And it might get to a point where it sounds really robotic. So you also want to make sure that you're answering the question with the same passion every time, but definitely rely on people to ask you a lot of questions and give you feedback on your responses as well.
The way I prepared was also to look at YouTube videos from past caucuses from Catalyst when they were in person. They did ask a variety of questions. So be ready for the serious ones, be ready for the not so serious ones, like if you were color, what would you be and why? You know, you want to practice all of those. I practiced with a group of friends, and we practice, I would go first, second, third, and then the next time I would go last. Because what if someone gives your answer? You don't want to give the same answer that they gave. So you want to be able to think on your feet and come up with a different answer, but just as strong as the answer you would have given. So it does take a lot of practice to get used to that, thinking on your feet. But yeah, I just look back at old YouTube videos. My team came up with a bunch of questions that they could think of, and then we just practice.
Lavada and Talia, just out of curiosity, what was the most unique or the most interesting question that you were asked during the caucuses?
The most unique, I think it was the question about something with my free time, because I don't have free time. So it was kind of like, I have to say something. Yeah, I can't remember. It was a Dr. Lynn question. It was something about free time. And I was thinking, I don't really have free time, but you can't say, I don't have free time. Let's move on. Like, you really have to think, okay, when I do have that small amount of free time, what do I do? And so that was one of the ones that kind of really stumped me because for the majority of the time, like I don't really get to, I mean, I watch TV, but I don't really get to enjoy it and binge watch it, and I'll watch it here and there. And so the thing that popped in my head was me spending time with my boys, because when I do get free time, that's what I did. And so that was kind of one of the interesting ones for me, because I was like, I don't have free time. But I know in the lives, because we did do the social media, in the lives, they came with a bunch of like kind of crazy questions. The social media aspect was a little bit different than the more professional caucus, as you would call it.
For me, I think it was also a Dr. Lin question. How many unread emails do you have in your inbox? And my answer is always going to be none, because I'm a control freak like that. And I want to make sure that all the emails in my inbox are read. But at the same time, when I got the question, I was like, oh my God, do I say that and say that I'm a control freak? Or do I, say that I'm a normal college student with a lot of emails? But always go with the most authentic response, no matter how it's going to come off, because you want people to know you for who you are. But I did hear candidates that got a question: if you were a type of grass, what would you be? I didn't know that there were many types of grass, to be honest, but be prepared for some questions like that.
We have any other questions?
I have a
Even
question.
as weird as what type of grass are you? Tiffany, go for it.
So what would you say some of the benefits are for being an RO or IO?
The benefit for me, first with RO, was, I believe Ashley touched on a little bit earlier. As you are campaigning, you're building a bond with your chapter. We did fellowship events to get to know each other and to bond throughout the year, but that campaign experience was like no other. And at the end of it, we were all hugging and crying, and like you could tell that experience made us a stronger team. And majority of us came back, the following year. And so that built a stronger team for the following year. We were able to connect better when we're doing projects and things like that. So the bonding during the campaign, regardless if you win or not, the bonding of it for being RO, because you learn a lot about each other as well. I try to hide when I'm nervous or when I'm about to give a speech, and they could pick it up, right off the bat. Once we got to that point, they would walk over and say, breathe, breathe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't breathing, and they know it. And so they were able to connect with me a lot better, us as a team a lot better. Benefits for IO is just connecting with more people, being able to touch more people. I received so many heartfelt emails after each of my events. I never did a workshop or a presentation or an event and never received emails. I always received a heartfelt email thanking me for inspiring them, or they were in a bad place and it pushed them forward. I mean, it could be something as simple as a time management workshop, and they would reach out to me. And so just being able to reach people and motivate and inspire people. A lot of the times when I did workshops, I was down myself, but I didn't let that show to them. And they were able to pick up on, hey, thanks for telling me about, this is something great. And then we would start a conversation about, maybe possibly anxiety or depression, things like that. And then we would just continue on. And there's a lot of people that I'm still friends with today because of them reaching out to me after a workshop or a speech. And so that was one of the benefits that I cherish, and I will always cherish for IO.
For me, it was definitely the confidence, whether it was with RO or IO. And I totally agree with what Lavada said. When you're campaigning, you reach out, you are able to touch so many people that you would never have known that you were able to connect with them. I remember during the campaigning process, I would receive texts sometimes from people that I've never talked to before, thanking me for being vulnerable and for sharing my story. And at some point during the campaigning process, I was so overwhelmed with joy that I would literally go to my room just to cry, because I felt like what I was doing was helping a lot of people. And it reminded me of my purpose and of my why. And it definitely instilled more confidence in myself to use my story to help other people and to keep reminding myself of why I'm doing this.
In terms of regional office, I can say that it has helped our chapter network a lot more, because it gives us reasons to reach out and to see what the other chapters are doing and just to bond with them. It also gave our chapter a chance to know more closely what's happening regionally and internationally, because regional officers put out newsletters. They are so connected with what's going on that transfers over to your chapter. And so your chapter is more involved with things, knows more about when the Hallmark deadlines are, what the upcoming scholarships are, when they're due, what's required of them, and just gave a better chance to be connected.
Networking is a really big deal. When I was a regional officer, I met a young lady who was a tutor, and we talked about other things. Now she's my tutor for one of my courses that the first week I was crying and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And I remember her telling me a story about, oh, I'm a tutor. And so I reached out to her on Facebook and I was like, oh, I have a question. I'm not going to bother you too much, but if I have questions, can I reach out to you? She was like, of course. And so that was, 2 years ago that I met her and we stayed connected, and now she's my tutor. So networking is important.
Awesome. Do we have any other last minute questions before we wrap up? Okay, awesome. Professor Lunder, you have anything else for us?
Now I'm just going to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to the regional officers for presenting information on how to run and some of those benefits of running for regional office, and certainly to our guests, having our international president, Tala Alahmar, here, and then our former international president has been in the Texas region, Lavada Burse. I just had to slide it in because when Brandon watches the recording, he's going to appreciate that I called you a husband. But no, we really do appreciate everyone taking their time to be here. We know some joined us in person, some are going to watch afterwards, but most importantly, I'll echo what was said before. If there is any part of you that is even thinking about running, run. It is a wonderful experience. Don't be afraid of it. I mean, being a little afraid is a normal thing, but don't let that fear keep you from doing something that you want to do. You have people who can provide support to you, who can answer questions for you. And so just do it. It's going to be an amazing experience. I didn't let Lavada back out of it. So I'm just saying she tried many times to say, no, I'm not going to run. And look, see, she did. She won her elections. And I think she would agree that it was worth it, even though it may not have felt like it at the time, especially giving the speeches. That might have been a little fear inducing, but sincerely run. It's an amazing experience. Anybody else have anything to say?
Thank you all for coming, especially Tala and Lavada. We really appreciate having you here with us, and getting to see the difference between what it's like being a regional officer, what it's like being an international officer, and the chance to encourage everyone to run for it. And yeah, just echoing what Professor Linder says, run. Even if you don't win, it is a worthy experience and you will grow.
Absolutely.